All right, it all started yesterday when there was another man who was on YouTube stating that America is the promised land. Now, I can think of a couple of reasons why people are saying this. I think it's because the Israelites went over to the Americas. On top of that, you have dark skinned Indians in which they're confusing with Africans, though their hair texture is nothing alike. Just because someone has very, very dark skin does not necessarily mean that they're of the same people. I've been to India, southern India, all over India really. The northern part of India is more pale. The southern part of India, the people there were darker than me. I mean, I consider myself a brown-skinned black woman, but these people were dark, dark skinned. However, oftentimes their hair texture is a lot finer, straighter. There were Indians with like curly hair, but I never saw any with kinky hair. However, I was looking up the CDs, which are a group of Indians who actually descend from Southeast Africa. And so that was one of the things that got my gears turning yesterday, because I have looked them up a couple of other times, but I looked them up again and I was like, these are Israelites. Like, I knew they were Israelites, but then I was like, these are really Israelites. Now, to me, they look exactly like what's in this picture: brown skin, curly hair. And so this is also the oldest depiction of the Israelites, and they strangely look like the oldest depiction of the Messiah. So here is a depiction of the Messiah, actually as a statue on the bottom there, which is found in the Vatican, but apparently they hide it in the back. And then one of the oldest depictions of the Messiah up top as well. As you can see, he's brown skin to dark skin. He's got the wide nose. They're lying basically. And actually, I think they look quite like, this group of people from Mozambique, which is where they were taken from. Now, I've been of the belief that the Israelites started in South Africa. I know I have one marker to Malawi, and it was funny because I was praying to God about like Malawi and perhaps these people are descendants of Israel. Well, maybe like 6 months later, someone randomly gets online and is like, I'm not even talking about Malawi, I'm not talking about the Israelites, nothing, but I tell you how demons work. They got online and was like, ooh, don't you even think in your mind that the Malawians are Israelites. So what does that say to me? The Malawians are Israelites, or at least there are some groups of Israelites. And then later, the father actually told me there were pure bloodlines of Israelites in Malawi. So I'm bringing this up because, again, people are trying to deny that the land given to Abraham to the Israelites is in Africa. So if you look into Genesis 15:18, it says, on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I give the land from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river Euphrates. So the Wadi of Egypt is also known as, it's either the Gihon or the Pishon. I think it's the Pishon, but it's the Nile River. So we have to understand that the Nile River isn't just in Egypt. It actually flows up from Lake Victoria, which is all the way in Uganda, up to Egypt. You can see this on this map here. So you have Lake Victoria down there at the bottom right. I actually went here 2023 through 2024, and it's definitely in Uganda, a little bit further south of that, a little bit in Kenya as well, and then that river coming up from it, that is the Egyptian river. And in fact, Egypt actually was a lot bigger, and a lot of these places were a lot bigger than what they look like on the map. In fact, Egypt went all the way down through Ethiopia. Now you also have Ethiopia, which was called Abyssinia, I believe. If it wasn't called Abyssinia, that area that is Ethiopia right now was called Abyssinia, but Ethiopia spread all the way to the west of Africa. And guess who was born there? So according to the book Truth and Light, Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, was an Ethiopian who prophesied onto Egypt and Ethiopia. Now, of course, this is in close proximity, to Egypt, so that makes sense to me. Now, this is interesting because I just looked at this for the first time after a year, just to make that little excerpt that I just said. I was looking into Ashdod earlier, and I believe it is located near Gaza. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but it says Amos, the prophet Amos, was the son of the herdman of Tekoa, the father of Isaiah. The word of the Lord came unto him as he followed the flock, and said unto him, Go and prophesy unto my people Israel. Publish it in the palaces at Ashdod and in the land of Egypt, saying unto them, Prepare to meet thy God, O Israel. Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? Amos prophesied until about 787 BC. So one of the things I was asking this gentleman who was stating that America is Israel or the Promised Land, what about the Lithops? All right? What about the Lithops? What about the lions? The Bible mentions specific animals in it. You will not find a lion in the U.S. And what was weird about the situation? He started saying things like, oh yeah, well Pangea happened and then the flood. And I'm like, but that does not justify what you're saying. For the simple fact is Israel did not exist at the time if all the continents were there at the same time, all interlinked with one another. So what about the lithops? What is a lithop? It's a genus of succulent plants in the ice plant family, Isosea. I'm probably butchering that. Members of this genus are native to southern Africa. Lithops are about 40 species of small succulent plants, and these plants are generally found in the rocky, arid regions of southern Angola, Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. And it's believed that their small rock-like appearance may serve as camouflage for herbivores. They are cultivated worldwide as indoor plant curiosities. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, it's because of this verse. So 1 Peter 2, 4 through, it looks like we're going through 6. And coming to him as to a living stone, which has been rejected by people, but is choice and precious in the sight of God. You, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house for a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices that are acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So, a lithop is a living stone. A living stone is a lithop. Why would your Messiah or your God be talking to you in a way you would not understand unless you knew what a living stone was, or a lithop? Now, if these are only found in Africa, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, why would you think that he would be saying this to a group of people in the Middle East? And then, of course, there's this majestic creature called a lion that is only found in two places, either in Africa or in India. Well, the lion originates in Africa and then migrated out of Africa into the Middle East, into India. So, we don't know what happened along the way, but the fact of the matter is the only place you're going to find both living stones and lions is in Africa. Now, continuing, there was a guy who popped up on YouTube, and he was giving the biblical location of Mount Ararat. Now, they claim that it's in the Middle East, but I was randomly just looking at Gaza land the other day, not really thinking about it, and then I was like, isn't Gaza another name for a place in the Middle East? And I was like, And then the next day, literally, it pops up on the news how Trump is trying to do something concerning Gaza, takeover or whatever. And so I said, I bet this Gaza land is actually the biblical Gaza. And so today, this person posted this Mount Ararat, which is also called Royberg. They actually took the name and changed it because, the Dutch people are down there. And what these people will do during colonization is they will change the name names of places so that you don't know what it is. That's like War 101. Now, if you go to this website, peakery.com, and you put in say you put in a Ryberg and Ararat, this is what will pop up. So, here it is actually called Mount Ararat, and it says the region is Western Cape, South Africa. Of course, this is known from Genesis 8:4, and on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. So this was after the time of the flood. This is actually where Noah landed. Could this be why the Adams calendar is located there? So this is the oldest man-made structure in the world, sometimes referred as the African Stonehenge. It predates both the Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza. Scattered throughout the mountains of South Africa are thousands of stone circle ruins, over 20,000 known by African elders as the birthplace of the sun. Could they mean the birthplace of Adam, the first man? It is found southwest of Kruger Park, South Africa. So I found out about Mount Ararat through a YouTube channel called, I think it's called Black Re-Education. It is Black History Month. Might as well just go there, even though, I don't really care either way. But the history that they typically share with us is a history that's not necessarily 100% true, and then it of course is quote-unquote American history, so it only goes back to us being slaves. But we didn't start off as slaves. We were a people before we came over here. So on his channel, and it might not be the Black Re-Education, but the person who was sharing the video from him, but he also found a Jordan River at the base of some mountains near Lesotho. Now, Genesis 13:11 says, Lot took for himself all the valley of Jordan and went to the east, and they were parted from one another. So this word valley is important because this is at the base of some mountains. A valley is at the base of mountains. We also know the River Jordan because this is one of the rivers that the Israelites crossed to get to the Promised Land. Going back to Genesis 13:10, it says, And Lot, lifting up his eyes and looking at the valley of Jordan, saw that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord had sent destruction on Sodom and Gomorrah. It was like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt on the way to Zoar. So Zoar was a city in the or the valley of Siddim, east of Jordan near the Dead Sea. The name Zoar means small or insignificant in Hebrew. Now, going back to the picture I showed you for Mount Ararat, if you look to the north, there actually is a city called Zoar. This is the biblical Zoar. Genesis 19:30 says, Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Now, the biblical Gaza. So Joshua 11:22 says, There was none of the Anakims left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod. So I brought up Ashdod earlier. Didn't really know, what I was reading. And so I do believe that that was led by the Spirit of the Lord, because he will start to, connect dots and fill in the blanks. So if you remember, Ashdod was the place in which Amos went to go to speak. And remember, Amos was the father of Isaiah. They were both born in Ethiopia. So Judges 1:18 says, Also Judah took Gaza with the coast thereof, and Ashkelon with the coast thereof, and Ekron with the coast thereof. So we have this region over here, which is, they say it's Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And this is historically known as Gazaland. And so this is what popped up, and I kind of started asking questions in my head. Typically when I do that, I'm asking the Father, and I said there's something particular about this place. Like, why did my attention get drawn to it? Why is Donald Trump talking about Gaza right now? Why is it all this in the news concerning the Boers being removed from that area? Because many of these Boers are in this land. So Joshua 15:47 says, Ashdod with her towns and her villages, Gaza with her towns and her villages onto the river of Egypt and the great sea and the border thereof. So again, the river Egypt is the Nile River, which flows up from where? From Uganda. So if you say that Gaza with her towns and her villages come onto the river Egypt and the great sea and the border thereof, then Gaza has to be located in Africa. Now, when I was in Tanzania a couple years ago, I went there because I have found out my heritage is from, it's from Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda. I would say that my people settled there, that maybe they're not originally from there, but I'm not sure. It's all kind of a mystery. I know that it shows my folks coming down from Spain during Spanish Inquisition into Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. I also have markers in South Africa, Malawi, like I said earlier. And I said, I bet this is where the Israelites started. And I think that's true on some kind of level, because if you look at the book of Jubilees, it'll give you the land divisions of Shem, right? And so Jubilees 10 actually states that the Canaanites stole the land of Shem. So when, that land was given back to Abraham, it was essentially, the inheritance that was given from the beginning. So the Israelites didn't steal the land from Canaan. They inherited the land of their forefathers, which Canaan stole. So some people think like the Khoi, that these guys are actually Canaanites. That could be true. They were called Hottentot by the Dutch, though. And so some people actually link the Hittite with the Hottentot. Now, I'm part Khoi. A lot of these folks seem to get offended when you call them that. I looked them up a little bit, and I think their name is the Kung, and I might be saying it wrong, and then it's got like an upside down exclamation point at the end, but I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. But I'm part Khoi, so I feel like I should be able to say it. But anyway, it's not meant to be offensive. It's just, I'm American. I don't know. And surely you don't know everything about Black Americans. From my understanding, they worship this god that looked like a mantis. And so, this is the thing with the customs of the nations. The Canaanites, they were mixing with fallen angels and that kind of thing, and so they ended up having Anakim. I think the Zulus and the Xhosa are Israelites. They do say that they are Guni, which, you do have Guni in the Bible. That is the son of Naphtali, and it would make sense if they came and fought the Khoi as Canaanites and won and got the land back. You have these apocalypse maps here, and there's one of every continent. Here, I circled Israel. Now, this is what they're saying is going to happen in the future, that these things will be wiped out with water. And as you can see, Israel, the land that they call Israel, seems to cease to exist. If this is truly the biblical Holy Land, why would it cease to exist? Is there a prophecy stating that Israel will no longer exist? Well, I think that what happened is these people claimed that this was Israel because this is the only place they could have moved in. We know that these people are related to the Palestinians. The Palestinians have Turk blood, they have Greek blood, they have Roman blood, and so do they. Now, I never knew how close Cyprus was to Israel, and this is one of the bloodlines they have as well. As you can see here, Ashkenaz is pretty close to Cyprian. There's Cyprian Greek, Kurdish, And according to their closest ancient group, they're Byzantines, Hellenic Roman. But, this is funny because I had a map of this and didn't realize what it was until I re-looked up Byzantines. So this right here is a Byzantine or Byzantine map. As you can see, these people ruled quite a bit, from Spain to Italy to Turkey, all the way to what people try to claim is Israel, Northern Africa, Egypt. And so this is why you see people like the Palestinians and the Sephardic Jews actually having quote-unquote Egyptian blood, which is really just Greek blood. So at this point, it just seems like they're kind of warring against themselves. all these people are Japheth. Okay, they are not Israel. They are not Yashraelites. They are not the seed of Shem. They are nothing but Romans and Greeks, people that hijacked the covenant because they were brought into the covenant under conversion and did not do with it what the Father wanted them to. So now we have the seed of Jacob that is waking up, and some people are mad about it. That's fine. It's not going to matter for too much longer because, like Revelation says, he says, I know those who call themselves Jews but are not, and indeed are the synagogue of Satan, and I will make them bow before your feet, and to know that I have loved you